Hey, how is everybody? I hope everybody's doing well and in these markets. Please put up your symbols you want me to take a look at. You see my screen right now. I have a chart up of the S&P 500, and I think there's something really important that everybody needs to realize right now is when you're trading right now and the environment we're currently in, there are two very specific levels. Watch, and these are the highs and the lows of last Wednesday's 9.5% candle. Until we break that one way or the other, we are still range bound and being held in place by that candle on the indexes. Whether it's the SPY, the Qs, the Dow, doesn't matter, whatever one you're trading, the SMHs, right? You should compare whatever symbol you're trading, you should compare it to what's going on that day. And I think it's important. So right now, when you look at the S&P 500, after that big candle, we came all the way down. We gave over 50% of it back before we came back off that 510 area. And now we're trying to sneak back above here, the 21 day, and to break that high. And, for me, my personal, what I maintain, if you guys probably hear me talking on spaces all the time, I believe that if we can break out to the upside on the SPY, then our next target area is going to be somewhere up here around this 570 area, 575 coming down, right? We're looking for where the 8 days there and the 200 day, and I think that's going to kind of become that grudge match area. And just so you guys know, I actually bought into the blood um, on that last Wednesday, and I bought SPY and the Qs and Amazon and Nvidia and added some more AMD. I'll be looking to trim it as we get up into those levels. All right. So let's get going here. Let's talk about what you guys want to go. AGS, I'm not familiar with it. Fred, let's take a look. Fred, this is a small name. When you guys post names like this, you need to know what you're trading and what you're in. To me, I know nothing about this name. It doesn't do any kind of volume. It does a couple 100,000 shares a day. So you need to understand the company. I don't understand the company. So for me, if you're in it, you have this big gap it came into and then it's held, whatever that was, probably earnings or some news of some type, and it basically goes sideways. If you're looking to get into it, you're looking for a break of roughly up here around this 1210, 1212 area on the stock. And for me, if it was to break underneath the 200 day, which is right here, I would want nothing to do with this stock. So for me, I would get out at that point and then revisit it if you really like it. Coin. So Coin has been it's an interesting name. We've been looking at it a lot here, and for me, it's very, very crystal clear in this chart. If you look carefully at it, you're going to see here that it is currently being held in by the 21-day moving average, the EMA. See, it hit it there and failed, hit it here and failed, hit it yesterday and failed, right? So, when Bitcoin breaks out, Sabina, it's going to probably run with it, right? So you need to watch Bitcoin. And when Bitcoin breaks out, it's probably going to try to run with it. It's strong here, but it has to break that 21 day. Now it's coiled up nicely. It's trying to take out that Wednesday's high. It's holding the 8 day here on the downside. So it has a nice coil. Bitcoin's been trying to break out today and it couldn't quite go. It came back in. But overall, I like this one. If it gets above that level and it can break above the 21 day, then it takes to take out Wednesday's candle just a little bit under 185. And then if it takes that out, I like it for a move up to that 20 I'll try that 208 no, let's call it 205 area here and then the 50 day wherever that sets up. That's what I would be looking for. Since we're talking that one, let's just talk a couple of the names in the sector. MSTR, which is basically leveraged Bitcoin, right, has been a very strong name of late. So, look at it. It's holding the 200 day, and you can really be long on this one versus that 200 day. It's been a lot of relative strength in that one. We'll see if it wants to hold it or not, but came down, touched it here, again here, again here. Look at back earlier in the year, last year, right? You can see a bunch of times it's come down and held that. And you have a W formation that's formed on this, right? So you can see down, up, down, and up, and your midline up here at 340, and that's my next target on it. So if you guys are looking at this one, I like this one. Just so you know, you could also trade names like on this one, like MSTX leverage. That's a ETN for day traders. What else, guys? Let's go into it. S. I have not looked at S in a while. So S is a small, for those of you guys aren't familiar, Burl, thanks for pointing this out. S is a smaller security name, cybersecurity name, and they've been struggling. And so my first thought, Burl, when I look at this chart and then I look at other names in the sector, we're going to go into crowd, and when I'm done with this, is that this is just a weaker name and it's not trading well, it's not acting well. And if you look at the chart, I mean, it tells the story here of we broke down here on earnings, okay? And we've never been able to come up and retest that earnings gap. So that earning gap is really kind of in control. It is still holding above the 52-week high, but not by a heck of a lot here, right? So it's still holding above that, which is down there around the 1450 area. It also is getting rejected at the 21 day over and over again. So if you want to be long it, you need a clear and hold of the 21 day, and I would like to see volume. Not just like one of these little candles. I'd like to see some volume come in. It might need earnings, but it needs to break above that 21 day if you're going to get anything out of that. The blue line is the Bollinger Bands, blue cloud. Path, don't like this name. Oh, let's wait, come back to that. Let's do crowd first. If you really want to be in a security name, I would really recommend crowd. Crowd here looks about best in breed. You have a big W formation that's formed on this one as well. And today it was trying to clear the midpoint and just closed right on it. Right. So the implied move would push this one back to the all-time high, which is up here at that level. And, you can talk a lot about economy slowing and companies may pull their CapEx budget, and that's all possibilities. But something they're not going to do is companies are not going to pull back on cybersecurity. So, I like Crowd, much stronger name. Everybody, this whole thing, debacle when they caused the crash of all those people's computers, has been completely forgotten about. I like Crowd, just a better name in the sector than S. Palo Alto, also a stronger name in the sector, but I prefer Crowd. Path, this name, again, another name that's just been extremely weak since that last big report back earlier last year. This was a big gap down, and while it's come into it a little bit and filled parts of it, it's never really been able to reclaim much of it. Rejected at the 200-day here, got above it, and I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Kathy Woods, but even she's been dumping it like mad, which probably means it's a raging buy. But I just, to me, the market's not interested in it here. You're bottom feeding. I think there's better companies. But if it can get a close here and you can get a move up and you can break above right there, so call it 1140 area, might be a trade to the 50-day and then see if you can get some momentum for it. Probably needs a really good earnings report to really kind of get going on this one. Honestly, probably needs just a change in character. SBGI. Um, Kind of have a little trend line here. We came up, you didn't quite touch it here. It's close, so you can try to stay long versus that trend here. Um, it's not a pretty chart. It is a little stronger than the markets right now in terms of it's close to the 200-day and it's above Wednesday's candle. I like that. It's filling this gap here. This gap fills up here right at the 50-day. So it basically just missed today, hitting the 21-day. I don't know when their earnings are. I would look at that. If they, good earnings gets them back above the 200-day, there's maybe it's a buy there above the 200. I would also then watch. Yeah. right in here, this 15 level. A lot of resistance. There was support and resistance on that level. So that's going to be the big area to clear if it starts to go. Valero. The energy sector to me is a very tough sector right now, and it has to because crude is getting destroyed, right? Crude is trading down. It was under 60 earlier this week before it bounced just back above it. Um, when you look what's going on, there's a couple things that just aren't very good for crude. The current administration's policy is drill, baby, drill. OPEC and OPEC Plus are raising their production and raised it more than expected as they just, they're tired of missing out. And if you think we're possibly heading into a uh, global recession, that's never very good for energy names in general. Now, this has been one of the better. It's a refiner, right? But overall, it's been very quiet and it's getting beaten up with everything else, and it cannot regain here the 8 day. So very weak, rejected at the gold line, the 8 day right there. Your 52-week low was from last week down here at 98. I personally think there's better sectors, Todd, to be in than energy right now. If you really want to be in energy, Valero is not a bad name. CVX has one of the best dividends out there. They pay to wait. I mean, this one got beaten up badly too with everything going on with oil getting crushed, right? Oil got absolutely destroyed and left two big gaps, but at least you're getting a nice big, at least you're getting, did I do what I do? There we go. At least you're getting paid a nice big dividend to wait. You got two big open gaps on that one. I prefer that one, I think, over some of the other names there for me personally. ACEL, another little guy here, does 200,000, not even shares a day. I know nothing about this name. I don't know a thing about them. If you're going to trade a name like this or invest in a name like this specifically, you need to know everything about them because they can go away. It's a small cap name. This is not a good environment for small caps. So the one thing I would tell all of you guys on these little tiny small cap names is you better understand their books. What's their cash? How much cash do they have? What's their burn rate? Are they making money? Are they losing money? Because, if they're losing money and they're burning and they don't have much cash left, that is a recipe for disaster in this current environment. That said, this one you have a gap back up here that is coming up to. It's run a long way to get there. I would expect probably to hit that gap and pull back off of it at first before it tries to get through it, and then see if you can get back up to the 1170 area. Not again, not a name I'm familiar with. Fortinet, nice looking chart here on this one. Another cybersecurity name there. It doesn't really work. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It needs to, again, clear Wednesday's high, which it came up and tested. That's nice. It's a little stronger. Then it needs to clear the 50-day where it was rejected here. What I like to do is always look for a place on charts eh, and say, does the 50-day mean anything? And this name, it sure does. Support came in here, right? Held it, tried to hold it here, trying to rehold it there, reject it here. So that 50-day at 101.71 is your big level to watch. If it can break above that, it can run itself back to 114. Overall, much better looking chart than most. Basically held the 200-day and pushed back up nicely, stronger than the markets. And that's a really good thing to look for here, is always look for names that are stronger than the markets. Zscaler, another one, cybersecurity. Even though they had their report wasn't so greatly received last time, nice move here as well on this one. So this 215 area, 216 area, you got a lot of names, a lot of resistance up here, right? One, two, three, four, five times it's tried to break above that, and five times it's failed. So, if you're long it, you're coming into there, you might either want to, if you're comfortable, sell some calls against it, trim some back, see what it does. I like how it broke above Wednesday's high here today, was able to do that, right? And so now there's, if the market rallies, I think this one tries to retest that 216 area. Again, cybersecurity, another good looking chart. on that one. Go ahead and keep putting some symbols in, guys. We got 15 minutes. Duke, another energy name. This one's holding in much better. So there's your high. You have a little bit of a trend line there that it bounced off of there nicely, so you can watch for that. That's support. Stronger name. I know it has a nice little dividend it pays. Try to go today before it reversed. Nice little 3-day move. There's an old rule on Wall Street. You don't chase names up. Um, Overall, nice looking chart. If stronger in the energy space. If you want to be in energy, this is probably a better one to be in than most. Actually, I think they're not energy. They're what do you call? Losing my mind today. It's been a long week. Um, Utility. Amazon? Oh, Copen. We'll do Amazon, right? Not AMZU, Amazon, right? Copen, again, name here weaker near the 52-week low. Doesn't look like it's doing much more than the markets are doing here. I can't say this chart is calling to me and saying I want to get into it. It's certainly, I think there's better places to be than this. There's money to be made in other names, I think, than this here. Um, if it pops, you need to take out the 21 day, which is now lined up at the top of this candle here. You have a small little gap that's sitting up here if it really wants to go. Uh, Again, overall, not a chart that really calls to me. If they pay you a dividend, it's not a bad place to sit in. I'm not going to do AMZU, bro. I'm going to do Amazon. AMZU is an ETN. It's leveraged, and it's just a bad chart to look at because it decays. So full disclosure, I'm long Amazon. I was buying it down here in the 180s and the 200s. I sold most of I had up into the 220s to 235 area, and I've started adding back. I added a whole bunch back last week. I believe in the company. I believe that, their AI story hasn't really started yet. And I like it, but it still has to show some strength. And right now it's struggling. It needs to take out that 21 day, and then it needs to clear above last Wednesday's high at 192.50, and then 200 is big. The 200 area and the 200 day are together right now, and that is just for Amazon. That just seems to be a big level. You know, you come across it right here, right into that 199.93, that 200 level. The 200 days right on it. That is your big, that's your big grudge match. Needs to get above that. Earnings are the week after next. So not next week, but the week after, I believe. So, we'll see what it does into that. But overall, I don't think the tariffs are going to be a huge deal for them. Remember, yes, it might hurt their retail side of the business, but they make all their money and their bread and butter is on AWS. Twilio. Twilio's been beaten to a pulp of late, and this was one of the little darlings for a while earlier this year. Gave big good guidance here, I remember that. And then we had the big gap down when it just wasn't enough. Um, Under the 200 day, it's just, again, not the most compelling chart out there. When you look at stuff, it needs to get back above the 8 day. It needs to break Wednesday's high from last week. It needs to get above the 21 day. I would watch also if I was trading it right here, little area of weakness. You have a gap back here that never finished filling. So if the market rolls back over, my guess is this one's going to come down and fill that gap. And you have a lot of probably nice little support area here around the 70 area where it traded and it based for a while. Meta. So Meta is kind of in a funk here. It's actually weaker than the markets right now. And I'm not exactly sure why, other than that the thought process is that you're very welcome, Todd. one of the thought process here for me is one thing companies can do quickly is without even giving anybody notice is they can instantly suspend or stop CapEx spending, and the same thing with advertising spending. So if you're Meta, that's a problem. Now, Meta was one of my outperform names last year because I figured it would run heavily into the election because of all of the advertising dollars, and it really had a nice year. Came up, put a new high in here. By the way, I really think they should split the stock, but that's beside the point. But right now, when you look at it here, it's not compelling. Wednesday's candles up here, it's almost given that whole candle back. There's something going on here, um, right now that isn't all that good. You know, we'll see what's going on there, but not much of anything special going on there right now. I think I prefer at this point just to leave it be, let them have a good report and see what they have to say. This 480 area comes into play. I think looks like it wants to retest that. If there's weakness in the market, it could find that pretty quickly. And then I would watch down towards this 450 area. Nvidia had bad news after hours. Uh, Nvidia expects a 5.5 billion charges in first quarter due to H20 products SEC filing. They're being charged license fees. That's what's hitting Nvidia. There you go. And that's probably to the whole market's coming in a little bit. AMD. Full disclosure, I am along AMD and extremely red on it. Well, not as much as I was. I'm not happy with this company at all right now. And I love the company as a company. I think their products are great. I think Lisa Su is a great CEO. They've missed the AI boat. And, when you have all this money being spent on AI and they didn't get their piece of it, that's a problem. And they're in the penalty box. So, uh, you know, I was buying it. I sold a bunch and I've been just buying back a little bit, including last Wednesday. I bought some more. And I think my average price now is around 105. And I'm looking to blow out of it if I get up to there. I'm just going to, I want to be crystal clear. I'm not trying to tell you to get in or get out of it. I'm looking to get out of it. I don't like telling people to buy something and I'm looking to sell it. I just don't think that's a good way of doing this, business. If it can get up, like market goes and the semis go, you have a nice little gap there. I'm hoping it can get up to the 50-day and maybe a little higher. You have a little gap sitting here as well. Overall, it's been stronger the last couple of days. You have ASML reports tonight. That'll give us our first look at a semi for this earnings cycle, and then Taiwan semi reports on Thursday morning. We'll get a look at them as well. I get, I just until they get their share, it's hard to love them here, guys. And just bite my 2 cents on that one. INSG, girl. Oops. There we go. Another little one. Again, understand what you're trading, understand what you're in here. Obviously, whatever this was, possibly earnings on big volume, that big gap has remained just tested and never gotten filled. It's struggling to get above the 8-day. It's not really trading with the markets. And here it trades on its own. If it cannot hold, came down right there. You can see it picked up support there. You have a little bit of support down here at 5. Then you would look down here towards that 350 area. I don't know enough about it for what the catalyst is. All I can tell you is that it's been riding the 8-day down for the last 2 months. So it needs to break above that in the 21-day to get any kind of momentum in it. We got 5 minutes. What else, guys? Here we go from Dan Ives posting on that news right now that just came out on video. So there you go. By the way, my trade room, this is what we do. We take setups, we look for what has momentum, we use news and technicals, and we bring it all together with option flow to find out what's going on every day. So that's why I'm able to get that information so fast for you. All right. ATD. I can't. On the Toronto Stock Exchange. I think this is it. Yep. I don't know anything about them. I don't know anything that they do. So this isn't it. Hammersonville or no? That's it. Okay. Sorry. Wish I could help. ExxonMobil. I prefer Chevron, to be honest with you, in that space. Put in a 52-week low here. I do not like energy names at William, at all, given the current environment that we're in. But at least this one pays a dividend. I think Chevron pays a bigger dividend, just a better name to be in. Honest answer. I prefer different sectors. Oracle, you know, so first off, I don't think Oracle or any American company is getting TikTok. So I mean that thinks it's just out of play at this point, which is probably okay for Oracle. They still continue to use to maintain their servers here. Bottom line is it held 117.50. That would be my line in the sand if I was in it at this point. Earnings about a month and a half away. It needs to clear the 21 day. It's been weak. Here was that last earnings report, pushed up, held for 3 days, came down. Um, I prefer, if you're looking for names in that space, we talked about those. Palantir right now. I mean, when you're looking at names, guys, there we go. You're looking for names that are acting stronger than the market. And Palantir, another beautiful day today, trying to break this range here today above all the moving averages, back high, the all-time highs at 125. This is what you want to look for right now in this market. You're looking for names that have relative strength that are stronger than the market, and Palantir just fits it. So, you take other stuff and throw it out. Pfizer, I don't want anything to do with Pfizer, William. Pfizer is a falling knife. They've been in a lot of trouble. They put a new 52-week low in. They just canceled their weight loss drug. I mean, there's nothing there I like. If you really need it, J&J today, their earnings were okay. They were up a little bit better of a company. Amgen, I know you guys looked at that last time, has been stronger. Their weight loss drug is coming. Lilly has been good. Yeah, but just because they have a nice yield doesn't mean you want to be sitting in it, right? What's the catalyst? You need to learn their drug pipeline. It just doesn't look healthy to me. It just doesn't look like a healthy company right now. QBTS, D-Wave Quantum. These little names got a run that they probably shouldn't have had. We're not that close to quantum computing, but that doesn't matter. What you need to know here is you have support on the 100-day moving average. You also have a trend line that comes in right there below it, coming in at 6. So you can try to stay long versus that trend line. Uh, when these names pay off, I couldn't tell you. To the upside, I would like it to clear this 775 level to get going. And we'll do one more. We'll do VRT. VRT, again, not a lot to be compelling about this chart. I hope you guys aren't sitting in these things up from the highs and just sitting there. I mean, I don't know enough about them. I've heard of them. I don't really know much about them. I've never traded them. Bottom line, you have a big gap up there that has never really been filled or tested. You have a very steep downtrend coming off that gap coming down here. You put a 52-week low in down here. It'd have to reclaim the 21-day moving average and that trend line for me to really want to get into it. Otherwise, I would have no interest. You wouldn't, but going into whatever this was, if it was earnings, Richard, I might take some off or sell some calls against it. And then if I saw that report, I would look to get out on a bounce or take it, depending on where you win. I mean, I don't know. It depends on how you trade. But for me, I don't want to be sitting in a stock just riding it down like this to a 52-week low. If I was in it earlier and I still had profits, maybe. But I'm a guy of I would always rather get out and get back in. My personal preference. I hope this helps you guys. It's not the easiest of market environments out there right now. So, you know, just try to be careful out there. Look for your thank you. Look for stronger names in the market that are acting better. You have earnings season kicks into high gear. We'll get Netflix on Thursday night, but really kicks in next week. So, make sure the most important thing I tell you here is check your names, understand when earnings are, and decide what you want to do. Do you want to sell some calls against it and create a covered call? Do you want to sell some and take some profits if you have profits? Always understand that. And thank you all for having me, David. Thanks for having me on again, and let me anchor the closing of your event today.